Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we'll be doing a silk press with beach waves. So starting out, I already shampooed my client's hair and I gave her a nice deep conditioning treatment and just got right into her silk press. So I prepped her hair with the Paul Mitchell leave-in conditioner. Then I put in about maybe like 1.5 drops of the Paul Mitchell Super Skinny Serum, and then I sectioned it into 4 sections and I just start blow drying. So I always section my silk presses out into 4 sections like this, 4 vertical sections, because I feel like it allows me to be very efficient with my time. My clients get in and out in about an hour. So my client is type 3 curls, and it may be a little bit difficult to see because she does have a little heat damage on the ends from a previous stylist. So the way I like to blow dry this type of hair is I just use the paddle brush to give some tension at the root, and then I take the blow dryer and use a sweeping motion to kind of stretch out the hair. That way I'm not putting direct heat on the same spot over and over. And then I just pull out the ends with the paddle brush and stretch the hair all the way through. So I'll just continue doing this throughout my client's head until all of her hair is dry. Also, when doing this, the main focus is getting that root nice and straight. So you want to focus the heat at the root, but don't put the blow dryer directly on the root, if that makes sense. You want to angle it towards the root, but then like sweep away from the scalp, so that way it doesn't get too hot for the client. Another tip I'd like to add about silk press blowouts: the best thing you can do is get that blow dry as smooth as possible before you flat iron it. What I see a lot of people do is they'll just kind of half do the blow dry and then try to make up for it by flat ironing the same section just over and over and over, and it's a waste of time and it's unnecessary heat. So if you can get all that initial heat done in that first, prep of the hair, it'll go by a lot smoother. And as you can see here, I just clip off each section after I finish drying it. That way I can make sure my sections are clean and neat. So after her whole head is dry, I just take a tiny bit more of that Paul Mitchell Super Skinny Serum, like a tiny dot, and apply that all over her head. What this does is it makes the silk press really nice and silky, and it just adds another layer of heat protection. So now that her hair is nice and prepped, I'm just going to go through and take very tiny sections and get her hair as smooth as possible. I'm using the Babyliss Nano Titanium flat irons. I have a mini one, and then I have I think it's like a 1-inch. So when you're flat ironing for a silk press, you want to make sure that root gets nice and smooth. I did a lot of the smoothing with the blow dry, but now it's really time to focus and make sure everything lays nice and flat. So I take sections that are no bigger than the width of the iron, and I'll kind of tap it and slide it a couple times at the root and then drag it over the ends. I typically don't go over the ends more than like 2 to 3 times, depending on the texture. And then after that, I'll go back through and do the beach waves. I also forgot to mention that after this, I'll be doing a routine trim on her. You'll notice that her ends really don't look that bad, and that's because a lot of my clients maintain their trims in order to keep their hair nice and healthy. I always explain to all of my clients the importance of keeping your ends clipped. So since she regularly maintains her trims, I only need to take off about maybe a ½ inch of her ends. There's just this myth out there that if you trim your ends, your hair won't grow or it'll never grow back. That is not true. If anything, the more you trim those ends, the better. Probably for this type of hair texture, I would recommend every 2 to 3 months just to keep it under control, because a lot of people will be like, oh, I got a haircut 1 year ago, and that's way too long. You need to be getting your trims every 2 to 3 months, and that way when you actually get your trim, you don't need like 5 or 6 inches off. You only need a tiny dusting at that point. And if you've gone a very long time without having a trim, saying you only need like a 1/4 inch off is really not going to have much benefit for your hair. So as you can see, I don't have to do a whole lot of flat ironing on her hair because it's basically pretty much straight. This is just finishing because the blow dryer was so thorough. So now it's time to trim her ends, and like I said, she literally barely needs anything because she always keeps up with her trims. And you can see how super long her hair is, and it keeps getting longer. My client likes her hair cut nice and blunt, so I'm not really doing anything fancy with this. I'm just gonna kind of cut straight across, and then I'll do a tad bit of face framing, and that's about it. By the way, I'm using the shark fin rainbow swivel shears. I think they're the 7-inch, and these are my favorite shears. Any hairstylists out there, they're not crazy expensive and they do a really nice cut. Now I'm just adding a little bit of extra heat protectant. That was the Paul Mitchell Neuro hairspray. I already used heat protectant in the beginning, but I always like to prep the hair for any type of heat I put on it. So when I do my beach waves, I like to take horizontal sections up the head, and then I take vertical subsections, and to me this gives the best shape. So I just take my flat iron and go in kind of like at a vertical diagonal and slowly slide it down, and you can see it just pops right up. And on this type of hair texture, you kind of want it to be a little bit tighter because the curls are going to fall really quickly if they're not tight. And I'm only really doing about a half turn when I do this. I'm not completely rotating the iron because that would give me a classic full curl. And when I get to the tip of the strand, I like to curl it a little bit more than I probably would have on the entire shaft, just to make sure it has like a nice bouncy effect. And then I just took that same heat protectant / hairspray and I set that section. Also, I did lower the heat a little bit now that I'm going over the hair again. When I first flat ironed her hair, I did it at about 410, and now I lowered it to 375. I really wanted to make a video on how to do beach waves because I really do like the beach wave trend, but I felt like when this first came out there weren't that many videos that showed how to do them on natural hair or on African American hair. So this is a technique that I just kind of started doing, and it works for me, works for my clients. So you guys should just give it a shot and let me know what you think. So typically when I finish curls, I would run my fingers through it and loosen it up, but because the curls will fall so quickly, I just take a little bit of oil and just kind of scrunch it so I don't lose the shape. And here are the results. Beautiful beach waves. All she'll have to do to maintain this at night is put on her bonnet. And that concludes the video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share.